Hey everybody, David Henry here from LearnChristmasLighting.com, and in today's video I really want to talk about what I've done so far this year and kind of start off this blog, as I'm going to blog through 2019 and talk about the things that I've done to make my display so far. Because while I figured out last year in 2018 that you can go ahead and you can start working on your display fairly late in the year. For example, I pretty much didn't start until September. And, I made a pretty cool display. But at the end of the day, this year I want to make things bigger, I want to make things better, and I want to be more intentional about my design. So, I'm starting now. So, let's recap what I've done so far this year. Starting in January, I went ahead and I sketched out what I wanted to do with my display this year. Last year, I had a pretty simplistic display, just under 600 pixels on the front columns of the house, and I had some conventional Christmas lights that were just turned on. Okay, that was fine. But I knew I wanted to go bigger this year. So the first thing I did was I got into X lights, and I'd used Vixen last year. I'm deciding to upgrade to X lights this year. So I went to X lights, I sketched out what I had already done, and I started playing around with the photo of my house and really looking at what I could do for this year. I was able to sketch all this stuff out and then come up with a spreadsheet of all the different pixels that I wanted and start to make a plan and say, okay, how much is this going to cost to buy these additional pixels, power supplies, etc. Start to really think through that stuff and think about if it's feasible to do everything that I want to do for this year, or at least feasible to buy a good bit of the pixels during the pre-sales. So you might be asking, if you're new around here, okay, what's a pre-sale? Well, a pre-sale is where the vendors who are importing these pixels from China, they go ahead and they'll take your money in January or February before they even order the pixels for you. They'll order them and they'll get them over to the US a few months later, and you'll save on the cost as opposed to buying later in the season and buying something they already have in stock. Plus, here in 2019, we also have the threat of some additional tariffs from China that could mark up the cost of pixels even more come April. Right now it sounds like that's going to happen, but who knows if they're going to come to a deal at the last minute. But this isn't a channel about politics. So I sketched everything out in X-Lights. I said, okay, this is how many pixels I want to get. And then I brought myself back down to reality, looked at how much spare cash I had, and settled on a good amount of pixels to buy. And I decided to pre-sale through DIY LED Express this year because I'd used them last year. I'd had a great experience, and they have good prices. The only downside I noticed is that a lot of the vendors are going to the X-Connect plug for their Christmas lights. DIY doesn't have that plug, but it's not the end of the world. So all my display so far is going to be DIY LED Express stuff. I'm likely going to buy more pixels as we go through this year, including from Wired Watts, some permanent pixels that I want to hang on my house permanently, but we'll get there as time moves on. So that's pretty much what I've done so far this year. And so if you're new to this, that's what I would do too by this point. If you're looking at this later in the year, you say, okay, by February, you want to go ahead and have already thought through and sketched out in your program of choice, whether that's X-Lights or Vixen or even Lightorama, sketched out, what this could look like, spaced out your pixels, and gotten some accurate counts as to what you're gonna do this year. Then, after that, go buy some pixels. I recommend definitely going ahead, pre-selling, but, knowing what you want to do and what types of pixels you want to buy so that you get the right thing from the pre-sale and you don't buy too much of one thing, not enough of another, etc. So, do those two things by this point in the year and you'll be good. Next, I'm looking forward to hopefully my pixels shipping, and through March, I'm really hoping to, acquire some power supplies and really start to dive into thinking about some cable lengths and things like that. It's not essential to do at this point, but especially as we get into the summer, I want to be going ahead, building any props I gotta build, testing everything, and being in as good of a position as I can be for November when it's time to set all this stuff up. So if you've enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe here on Learn Christmas Lighting if you want to get these updates and great informational videos about the Christmas lighting hobby. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys here soon. Bye.